And in this part of our tank game, well, we're going to continue to add and build onto it. Keep in mind that in the description are assets and the code and all of that good stuff, and that there's earlier parts. So if you're wondering where this stuff came from, you should go and watch the other parts of this series and build a tank game along with us. But with that being said, let's get going. So we are going to want a whole army of robots after us, otherwise it wouldn't really be that fun of a game. To do that, we're going to make our robot a prefab. Let's go ahead, I can get rid of this now, and our robot, our enemy, is going to be prefabified. So I have a prefabs folder, and I have an enemy, and now I have an enemy prefab. I'm going to name this prefab so I don't get it mixed up. So now I have an enemy prefab. What we're going to do with that is make it so that we can spawn mini robots upon launch of game. This can also be helpful if you want to add mini levels, things of that nature, or difficulties. Alright, so I'm just going to create a game object, and this is going to be simply named game controller. It's going to help set up the game, keep track of score, all of that. So game controller, throw it up here. And then I'm going to call it, game controller actually. And create that. Let's go to assets and drag that script into our script folder. There we are. And, I need to open it. Great. So, what are we going to want to keep track in this? First and foremost, we want to know the enemy's direction. Because if you think of Space Invaders, when they hit the side, all of the aliens move towards the other side. It's not like only when each alien hits the side, it would go this way. They would overlap one another if that was the case. So whoever's on the very edge, they need to all move the other way when that person hits the side. Even if the two edge robots are destroyed, well then the next one in needs to command when they move. So to give all the robots access to the direction they should be moving in, we're going to make that part of game control. And it's just going to be we can do a private int. We could make this public, but I'm going to use a return and a get and set statement. Enemy direction is going to be equal to 1. Okay, and then we're going to need the prefab, so game public game, object. And score we're also going to use within this. So what do we have here? We have time to control that. Remember when they hit the side to make sure it doesn't keep hitting the side, to make it pause for a moment. And we're going to move that code over to some degree from the enemy script. First, let's set up more than one enemy. Alright, so we're going to need a for loop and then instantiate. Let's just do 3 at first. Let's see where our robot is. So -3 maybe. Let's see, I'm going to mess around a bit here. Yeah, we could move them over a bit. And 1.2. Okay. Just trying to get this even-ish. 1.5 it is. Okay, -4 and 1.5 is going to be the starting point. So in here then, for x, -4.0 f plus, and this is where, since we're looping through to create multiple robots, multiple enemies, I'm going to use I times 2. Okay? Because I'm going to add to x 2 for the first round, right? Or none for the first round, because 0 times 2 is 0. And so it will just be -4. But then I'm going to slowly add 2 each time, and it will push them across the screen for their starting point. So that's going to be x, y is going to be 1.5, f, and then z, we don't really care about 0, because it's a 2D game. And then for rotation, quadrant identity, it is, and great. Let's save all this, and let's give it a shot. First though, game controller, and let's make sure to add in this stuff. Oh, we don't even have score text yet. UI text, we'll worry about this later, but I'm just going to go ahead and get it into game controller, and then our enemy prefab. And let's hide this guy. And now let's try it. Boom, and we got 3 enemies. The directional thing is not working yet, but we're going to take care of that next. And due to their size, I might want to separate them out more. So that's looking awesome. Let's try, I don't know, 2.1 maybe 2.2. And then, oh, F. And how about we have a second row? And so to do that, I'm honestly going to Control-C this, copy it, and then paste it. And I'm just going to move them down what I think their size would be. So if I add 2 to this, maybe 3.5, but maybe 3.7. Oh, I mean, I need to subtract. We're going down. So maybe negative 0.5. Let's see. Save all that. Yeah, and now they have a bit of space, and we can blow them up. Ooh, boo, 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 boo. Great. So, what to do now? Well, we want to control that direction, like I said. And that's actually not going to be too painful because we already have it set up in our enemy script where their direction is based on that impact right here. And so instead of basing it off direction times -1, we're going to have them get direction from the game controller script. So to make this work, what we're going to essentially do is we don't need any of this time stuff in here anymore. What we do need actually is most of this in the other script. So right click, copy, or Control-C, Command-C on a Mac. And the game controller script is where this would go. And let's go ahead and name a public. And we're making a public function because this function is going to be called, this method's going to be called by the enemy script. Let's call it set enemy direction. And then I'm just going to paste, Control-C. We don't need screen width. We're going to have each individual robot worry about that. We're just wanting to know time-wise, because we don't want to be changing everyone's direction constantly. We want to give them a bit of a break, like otherwise they get stuck on the side, like we saw. And so what we'll do here is we're going to say, if an enemy calls this, it's going to be enemy.direction, we'll say, is going to be equal to enemy direction minus times -1. So we're going to flip that direction, and then we're going to do what we did earlier, just like in the other function, and time equals time plus 2. So we'll add 2 seconds and say, wait, has it been 2 seconds or not? Seconds since start of the game though. So we're going to make sure that it goes, we have at least 2 seconds in between so they don't get stuck on the edge. Now, we also want a get public void, not void, int. And all this is doing is returning the direction. So return enemy direction. Great. Save. And now let's head back to the enemy script. We only need then, in this, we won't need the time anymore. We're not worried about that. The game controller is managing the time so that all the robots don't get stuck. We also, for direction, we will need direction, but what we need to know is if the player hits the edge of the screen, we are going to use that game controller function to set the direction for everyone, not just this one robot. Controller set enemy, and it's occurring to me right now, we need to add this to the top. Direction. And then, and for this, we could just do game controller. Let's declare it at the top. We could do public or private. Let's do private game controller, and it's going to be game. Because we can just use start to grab it. And so what we're doing, game controller is going to be equal. We find the object. we get the component, the game controller component, which is the script from the game controller object. So instead of always doing public or a serialized field, we could do this type of thing as well. So now we have the game controller, and game controller dot set enemy direction. This is just what we want. Let's make sure we need that lowercase, right? That is the name of ours. So that's looking great. And then we need to make sure each time, now that we're not changing the direction within this, we're going to grab the direction up here. Because remember, we're multiplying by direction, but we want to make sure each enemy, each robot always has direction right. So each robot's going to say direction is equal to the game controller dot get enemy direction, and that will be a positive or negative one depending, and then they'll use it right here, and that way all the enemies can move together like a fancy swimming team or something. Save all this and let's take a look. Notice they didn't go over top of each other anymore. Pow, pow, pow. Now how about we add a score? And we already have that here. Well, we have what we're going to use for that here. I'm going to put this up here. And we want canvas. Set to camera. Let's drag in main. And then scale with screen size. For this type of a game, I'm thinking, let's see, 1280 by 960. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. And our score, just going to rename this to score text. Let's start out with it all zeros. Actually, I want to see what the stuff looks like. So 0, 1, 2, 3. I don't know, font size 65. We don't want wrap, overflow, overflow. I have a bunch of fonts we imported at the beginning. Remember, all the assets are in the description. All these fonts I have are free to use, public domain, and such. So here they are. Oh, let's make sure we can see our score. Overflow is great. Gonna fight us. Let's make sure sorting layer, HUD. There we are. And I'm gonna just, yeah, that's better. Okay, so there we are. I can pull this out if I need. And, oh yeah, fonts. Nah. I'm kind of liking this one. What is it called? Capture. Okay, so I'll go with that. I'm going to make this bold and then up here. I think I'll just center it. So, oop, nope. I might even go larger on font. Perfect. And score can be set to 0 to start. Now, we would obviously want our score to go up as we kill enemies. Let's do that, and then we also need health. So right here is if it collides with an enemy, and that's where we should be adding to the score. So remember, in game controller we have public text, score text, and we haven't created this yet. And so what we'll do is make this public void score point, and we'll say score plus plus, which means score equals score plus 1. We'll add to it, and then what we'll do is score text. We want to grab the text component and we want to set that equal to score, but we want to do to string. We're going to change that into a string. And there we are. So that will update the score. Now, when should we score? Well, like I was saying with the bullet script, okay, over here, I'm going to go to laser though, because I don't want to, does bullet have, oh, that's fine. Okay, So when do we score? I'm going to do a debating. We only use it once. I'm going to go to laser. Let's go to enemy. And I'm just going to copy and paste this because I'm lazy. Control C, bullet. When do we need it? When, yes. And so let's use a start. Boom, and then we need a game controller, game. And then down here, when we hit an enemy, we're going to destroy it. And then game controller dot score point. And call the score point method, which should update our score. Let's try it out. Boom, 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 boom. Champion! Awesome. All right, and now let's add health. Adding health and a few other finishing touches is what we'll be doing in the next video.